एक्चुअली बहुत लोगों को आइडिया नहीं होता है कि व्हाट टू डू, दे ट्राई टू डू समथिंग एंड देन
R. Mahindran sir, you are allowed to unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Actually, you are asking whether voice is audible or not, but we don't have option to speak or chat. Whether it is audible, that option is not there. Even when you ask, also we cannot able to respond.
Good morning, everyone. We'll start with second day of the faculty development program on statistical, data science with statistical models using R programming. So we begin with Shadab sir, and I will change the settings and allow everyone to unmute. Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, you can start in between. Yes. I will do the settings.
Okay, friends, welcome to the second day, and believe me, second day is always better than the first day. The first day is very scary in the sense you also get very confused. What are we going to do? How the speaker is going to look like? Whether the speaker will have hairs on the head or not? So there are many questions which comes to your mind. But in the second day, you also feel settled down. And yeah, I mean, suddenly somebody comes in your life and in your peaceful life, he starts speaking about art, etc., etc. So yeah, that it disturbs the entire life on the first day. But on the second day, the life gets settled. And I'm sure that today you will understand the things in a much better way what I have told you yesterday. And yeah, I will be honest enough in accepting, yes, that unless and until you practice it, and for practice you have to be given some time. Only after that you will be able to understand these things what I am telling you here. For me, yes, these things are easy because I know what I have to speak. So please do understand those things and don't lose your confidence even if you cannot understand for a while on the screen. And since Anuradha is Kovi as many as time.
Who is speaking?
Quick revision of what we had done. So now I will just continue from the first lecture. These are very simple and things, but they are very useful in the data science. One thing you can believe on me for a while, that whatever the topics I am taking here, they means at least I personally feel that they are really essential for the data science. The means either they will be the command in R or they are going to be the topics in statistics. Sometimes those topics may look very simple and people may not be able to understand that why it is so important, but I will try my best from time to time to explain you the utility of the functions or utility of or the utility of those topics and the reason that why I have included in this lecture on what grounds. Right, so let us now try to come back to our slides and let us try to understand about the print and format function with the concatenate. So you see, Miss, if I try to explain you that why do you need a print function or format function, so that is pretty simple. That whenever you are trying to do any statistical analysis or anything, you will always need the outcome. And the outcome is always given in the format in which whether the agency asks who is asking you to do the consultancy or there will be certain objective which you want to answer. Right. So people want to suppose know that whether the body temperature affects the severity of COVID or not. So just by looking at the values, they cannot understand anything unless and until you write them in a statement form that, okay, if the body temperature is this, then it is not severe. If the body temperature is this, then it is severe, like that. So there can be many instances where I can say explain you that this type of formatting and display of the results is very important, and where we are going to use this thing. And then there are different types of possibilities are there. You can play with the statements, you can join them, you can split them at some given places, and you can format them according to your choice. And if you try to compare them, if you try to compare it with any paid software, then usually there is a function there. Okay, you can click here and then you can generate the report. The report will give you many information, and possibly that is the most attractive part of any paid software, because they can generate the report in the required format. So the same thing you can do here also, and I will repeat the same question that, well, in the paid software you can get it done automatically, but here you have to do it yourself. And the advantage is that the grant that you have got, that can be used either for buying the software or that can come to you as an on-radium. So now let me try to take here these functions and then try to take some examples and try to explain you. So there is a function here, cat, right? Cat is actually concatenate, right? That means concatenate means to join the statements in the same sequence in which you are trying to give. And this cat is actually more useful than the print function, because I will try to show you here. There are two functions, print and cat, because cat can help you in generating the output according to your way, right? And then, yeah, there can be separators also, so that you can divide, you can join them together. So the simple use of the cat function is simply you try to write down here cat, and you try to write down the statements, and then you try to write down the file where you want to save, and then how they are going to be separated. And after that, you have to means if you want every outcome to be on the new line, then you have to give the option here \n, right? So the outcome will be terminated at that point, and the next outcome will start from the next line. Okay, and then, but surely I will request you once again that that when you are going to use this cat command, please try to look into the help, because that will give you many options. Here I'm just trying to give you the minimum option so that you can feel comfortable. Right, so let me try to show you that what will be the difference between using the print command and cat command to do the same thing. Suppose if I try to write down here, like print the 0 occur set, and then the print twice of pi, and then print radians. So that is going to print here like this. I mean, 3 statements on 3 different lines, right? But what do you want? You want, suppose, to print them in a single line, and what you want that the 0 occurs at, this is inside the double quote, so it is a statement, so that should come as such, and then it should print the value of twice of pi, and then it should print the radian. So this cannot be achieved by this print function, but that can be achieved by the cat function. And if you try to see, in case if I try to write down here like this, that within double quotes I write here the 0 occurs at, and now we have a numerical variable, so I simply try to write down here. I think may I request, can you please unmute your mics unless and until you want to speak.
Please mute yourself, whoever is unmute. This is why I am not allowing people to unmute. This is, it creates disturbance. I request everyone to please don't unmute until unless it is needed for question answer. Please, it is a request. Otherwise, I will have to change the settings again.
Right. So this is what you want to do here. That this is here a statement, and this is here a numeric value, which is going to be find by the software. And then once again we have here a string, that is a statement. So now if you try to see what is happening, whatever are the statement that I'm trying to give it in the double quotes, and those which are numbered, they are just giving without any double quotes. And if you try to see here by using the command here cat, I can print it here like this. The 0 occurs at this. So that is the advantage of the cat command, that you can print all these things in a single line, right? And yeah, that is the outcome that you can see. Means I always include this screenshot so that you can be confident that if you try to do it on your R console, this will happen. So even if you are trying to make any spelling mistake or any comma full stop mistake, but by looking at this R console, you yourself can decide that what type of mistake you are going to make. And remember one thing, my ultimate objective is that you should be completely independent of me, that you should not depend on me for learning the R at the end of the workshop. Right. Now, similarly, when you are trying to generate different types of reports, you have seen that that you always want to know when this report was generated. So you would like to print the date, timing, etc. So, for example, there is a command here, date. If you try to do it on the R software, date, and if you try to give only the parenthesis, this will give you the date, time, month of your computer server. Right. So, for example, if I want to write down this report was printed on, or today is whatever is the date today, that should come automatically. So you can see here, I have written here cat, and then within double quotes, it is today is, and then whatever is the value of D, which is stored here as the date, that will come, and then the next outcome will come from the next line. So you can see this outcome here. Today is, that is coming from here. Yeah, this date is not of today's date, but this date is say possibly the date was 31st May, and when I was trying to prepare the slides and finalizing the slides for the workshop, at that time I had prepared these things. So this was 10 o'clock in the night, 10:10 to 27, right? So this is how you can control the date and time also. Right. Similarly, let me try to give you here one more example. Suppose if you give here a value here x equal to 7, then I try to write down here the square of, say that's a statement, then here x, and then here is, that's a statement, and then this is here x square, and then this exclamation sign, and then next line. So you can see here this outcome will become here like the square of 7 is coming from here, and then is 49 is coming from here. So you can see that this cat command can handle the statement as well as this mathematical operations together, and can generate the outcome in the required way. Right. Okay. So I hope that is not difficult. Yeah. Similarly, if you want to, yeah, another advantage of the cat is that you can use the format command over here, like as digits. So I try to use it here. The same thing, the square root of say x is approximately, and now I'm saying that square root of x has to be found, but I want only the number of digits to be 3. So it can give you the output in the required format. So these are very simple example, but believe me, whenever you are trying to do any data analysis, either in statistics or big data science, these things are going to play a role, because in big data science you will be dealing with the programming, which is with the millions and billions of observations. So, and in the data science, usually most of the things are automated. Right. What statistics you are using, what formula you are using, what tools you are using, people are not interested in those things. They just want to see the final outcome. And if your final outcome is not properly formatted, your entire efforts will not really be appreciated. Okay. And yeah, cat function has one more option, that it can also print the data vectors also. Like for example, if I try to take here, so even number is a data vector containing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. So you can see here that even number is the data vector here, and I try to write down here cat, the first few even numbers are then even number is coming from here. So it can, and then dot dot dot. So it will look like the first few even numbers are like this, right? So what I would request you actually that means I can take many examples, but the more important learning comes when you really know what you really want to print. So I would request you that why don't you take your own statements in whatever area you are working and try to see that how you can write those things in a way you want to produce them as an output. So that will help you only. And you see, that is always there when you are working with the data science. As I say, the data science independently is nothing, that's only a toolbox. But then when this toolbox is applied over biology, over chemical engineering, over something else, then the requirements are different, their structures are different, their outcomes are different. So in whatever area you are trying to work, you have to first imagine that how this data science is going to be used. And yeah, difference between statistics and data science is mainly that statistics will give you the formula that will give you the exact values, but data science do expect more things than the statistic. They will expect the data is coming out there automatically, the data has to be read, and the statistical the tools have to be implemented automatically, and the results have to be shown on the screen in an automated way, right? Okay. Okay, so now I come on another aspect on the control structure, that is loop. In a simple way, means I can say, means a loop is something like this, that whenever you want to repeat the process for some known or unknown number of times, then how you can repeat the process. So those who are familiar with any programming language, they will understand it very easily, because usually we have different types of structure like a if-else condition, for loop, etc., etc. So whatever you can do in any other programming language, the same thing you can do in the R software also without any problem. That's my promise. And the only thing is this: the structure is going to be a little bit different. But that happens in all the programming language. If you try to write down the control structure or if-else condition in Fortran or in C or in another language, they are going to be written in a different way. But the basic fundamental is always the same in all the things. Right. So my job here is essentially just to inform you that how you can do these things. Right. So one condition is this if-else condition that we solve. Means if there are different types of condition under which different types of executions have to be done, then we try to use if-else condition. For example, I can say in our classes also, if somebody has got the marks between, say, this 80% and 100%, then the grade is going to be A. If somebody has got the mark between, say, 60% and 80%, then the grade is going to be B. So these are the different conditions that which are based on the marks that the students are going to achieve. And then based on that, the output has to be that the student has got grade A or grade B and so on. Right. So this type of condition can be written here, that if, and then inside this parenthesis, you have to write the condition, that what condition has to be checked. If the condition is, now there will be two options: if the condition is true or if the condition is false. So if the condition is true, then whatever statement you will write here in the R structure, that will be executed. And if the condition is false, then this will come to the next line. And again, it will try to check whether the condition is true or false. If true, then it will try to execute the command, whatever you have written here. But remember here, these conditions are written inside the curly bracket, right? And if and this process can continue as long as you want. And the moment, suppose all the above conditions are false, then whatever you want to get it done, you can write in the last line, and that will be executed without any problem. And in these things means in the conditions what you are writing here, you can use any of the logical operations also without any problem. Right. For example, if I can take a very simple example, if I say here, suppose it is equal to 5, and now I say that if x is equal to 3, remember one thing, when I try to write down here x equal to 3, that means the value 3 is assigned to the value x. But when I try to write down, say, 2 equality sign, this is the logical equality. Logical equality means I'm just trying to see whether the answer is yes or no. Right, whether the answer is true or false. If x is exactly equal to 3, then the answer will be yes, otherwise false. So I'm trying to say here, if x is equal to 3, logical equal to 3, then you have to execute that x is going to be x minus 1. Right, because it's a function like fx is equal to, say here, x minus 1 is f x equal to 3 and it is equal to 2x means otherwise. Right, you have done this type of functions in the mathematics. So we are simply trying to do it here. So this I can write down that, okay, if x is equal to 3, this is here, then you try to execute fx is equal to x minus 1. And if not, then try to execute here twice of x, which is written here. Right. So now in this case, since you have taken here the condition equal to here x equal to 5, so that means this is actually x is not equal to 3, so x is equal to 5. So this twice of x will be executed, and you can see here, and you can see here this is the screenshot here also. And now you can take here different types of example and then try to repeat this example. You can take x equal to 3, x equal to 7, x equal to 5, and then see what really happens. Okay. Okay, so now, yeah, so here you can see this is the option here, that if I try to take here x equal to 3, then it is going to be x equal to x minus 1, that is 3 minus 1 is equal to 2. Right. The second condition is a conditional execution, and this is actually if-else condition, but in a different way. So whenever we want to test only a single condition which has only two outcomes, whether the condition is true or false. So whatever is the condition we write here, there are two options. This condition can be true or this condition can be false. If the condition is true, then whatever you are going to write here in this statement, that is going to be executed. And if that condition is not correct, then whatever you write here, that is going to be executed. One request, please understand it very clearly. When I write here test, test does not mean test, or yes does not mean yes, no does not mean no. These are only indicators. These are going to be some conditions which are going to be satisfied or executed when the condition is true and when the condition is false. Right. Okay. So suppose if I try to take here one example, suppose I try to take here the numbers x1 up to 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. Right. So you can see here, this is my here number. Now I try to say here that if x is less than 6, then it has to execute this condition. This is here yes, if you can compare from here. Right. And then in case if the condition is false, this is no, then it has to be executed with x plus 1. So you can see here now when it is coming up to here 1, 2, 3, 4 here up to here 5. When it is coming up to here 1 to 5, then it is trying to test the condition is x less than 6, is x smaller than 6. So a control will come here, 1 here, and if you'll say, now you have to decide if 1 is less than 6, answer is true, yes, true. So when it or true or say here yes. So when it says yes, then the whatever is written here x square, that has to be executed. Yes. So now it will become here 1 square Then it comes to the second number 2, and then it will become here 2 square, which is here 4. Then it will come here 3, and then it will actually be cross checking it. 2 is less than 6, 3 is less than 6, up to here. Means up to here 10 less than 6. So you can see here up to here 5 means 5 is less than 6, which is giving you here the numbers, and there is square. But after that, as soon as you see here 6 is less than 5, the answer becomes here false. No. So then it will come to here to this statement x plus 1, and it will make it here 6 plus 1, then for the next number 7 plus 1, and so on. So this is how this condition works actually. And yeah, if you try to see the real application of this if-else condition or this type of this conditional execution, suppose you are you can think about a website like as Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, where means every minute means thousands of people are trying to access that website. And suppose if websites really want to scale their items, well, if you try to compare it with a physical shop, you can recall that whenever we go to the shop and we try to look at something, and if we are not finding it, some shopkeeper or some salesperson will come and they will try to motivate us. Okay, sir, please try to buy it. Otherwise, oh, okay, I can give you this discount, this off, this offer, etc., etc. So the same thing happens. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, is someone saying something? Sorry, sir, I will just change the settings and I'll mute everyone. Sorry, sir. Sorry. Please continue, sir.
Yeah. So now, now you can imagine that this hypothetical condition that the customers are hypothetical. They are sitting in their homes, and there is a Flipkart or Amazon shop. So sometimes people do enter into the shop. They will look around the shop. They will try to do the window shopping. Window shopping means they will not buy anything, but they will simply observe the things and then they will leave the shop. But if there is a serious buyer, suppose I want to buy the shirts, so I will go to the section of the shirts, and then I will try to look here and there, blue shirt, white shirt, green shirt, red shirt, etc., different brands. So by looking at the behavior of the customer, the shopkeeper or the salesperson can very easily judge whether the person is really interested in buying the shirt or he is simply coming for a window shopping. So now, in case if you want to process the same thing in this data science way, so you want to identify the customer who is more serious in buying the things, and you would like to give an offer to a customer who is more interested in buying the things. So now if you try to see, when we are trying to go to those websites, we are trying to click here and there. Now one can actually count that how many times I have clicked on the say items like shirts or trousers, and I can make a threshold there that if I have clicked the section of say shirts for more than 5 times, that means I can be classified as a serious buyer, otherwise not. So I can write down here a condition, either means if else like this one, or say anyone. Let me try to clear the screen also so that you can see more clearly. Right, so if you can see here, I have here a customer, means I can here test whether the customer has visited a particular section more than 5 times, less than 5 times. If it is more than 5 times, my condition will be send an email containing say 10% off, 20% off. right? And then it will be, if it is, less than 5, forget about it, means the customer is not serious, so there is no use of sending him any coupon also. So these types of things, you can imagine that these things are happening in an automated way, and that you have seen. If you ever buy the airline ticket, if you try to go to the website and if you try to click on the fare couple of times, suddenly you will see the fares jump, because they understand that the person is getting confused, so they want to do the marketing. So that means the person wants the ticket but he's getting confused, so why not to take the advantage and increase the fares by, say, this 5%, 10%. And now, in case if you try to control it, just do one thing, just don't do anything, just leave the website. Means after a couple of hours, you will see what the price have come down. Or second thing, I can show you the real application of data science. Means if you want to travel on, say, this 1st of July, try searching the fares from the date of, say, 28 June, 29 June, 30th June, 1st July, 2nd July, 3rd July, 4th July, so that you confuse the software that what's really happening at any point of time. You are not clicking, say, for example, more than 5 times, the fares will not change. Right, so that is the real application of data science, but that's a simple application of statistics, but that's an automated way dealing with the huge data through the programming. So that is why it is data science. Right, okay. So similarly, we have here different types of loop: for loop, while loop, repeat loop. And the basic fundamentals behind this loop is the same as we did in the past, that this for loop, is used when we know that how many times we want to repeat a function. Say, for example, I want to repeat, for example, whenever we are trying to do the simulation, I want to generate the random numbers and I want to compute my function. So I know that, okay, I have to repeat it, say, this 5,000 times, 10,000 times. Then I know that it is going to be repeated for 5,000 times, 10,000 times. So in that case, you have to use the for loop. So whatever you want to increment, that you have to write inside the simple some simple bracket, that is parenthesis, and whatever commands you want to execute, that can be written in the curly bracket, right? Okay, for example, I can give you here one simple example here. Say this for I in 1:5. Yeah. So I in here is something like, in different programming language, they try to write down different things. Sometimes they write I goes from 1 to 5 and so on. But here we use here I in. So so 1: means it will go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So I'm simply trying to say, okay, it choose this I and print I square. So what will happen? This loop will start. It will choose the value here I equal to 1, and then it will come here and it will print here 1 square. Then it will come to the second value here 2. It will choose I equal to 2, and then it will come here, print I square, and it will become here 2 square. And similarly for 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, up to 5 square, that will be printed. So you can see that the same conditions are repeated automatically. Okay. And yeah, and then simply, yeah, I mean, say, okay, someone should not get confused that when we are trying to choose here the value of I, they have to be in continuation. They can be anything else also. For example, I can choose here I is equal to, say, 2, 4, 6, 7, not at any interval. So I can just use now here the command here C, and then I will come to the first value, second value, third value, fourth value, and so on, and it will try to print the square of the value. So it will come out to be 4, 16, 36, 49. So I hope it is not very difficult to understand. And similarly, we have here while loop. While we know, it means you try to execute the program while certain condition is true. For example, means I will ask a student to take the examination unless and until he passed the examination. But you don't know that whether the student is going to clear the examination in 2 attempts, 3 attempts, 4 attempts, etc. So in those situations, we try to use here the while loop, right? For the condition is here very simple. Try to write down here while. Try to write down here whatever the condition you want to execute, and these conditions will be executed as long as they are coming out to be true. For example, if I can say x is going to take here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on these values, and if I want to say that try to continue unless and until x square plus x minus 3x cube is greater than suppose 5. Right, so as long as this condition holds true, you try to execute the program. As soon as the condition is not satisfied, you break the condition. So for example, if I say here, so suppose I take here a condition that while I is less than 5, then you can write down here print I square, and then here the next jump will be I equal to I plus 2. So what will happen here? It will try to choose here I equal to 1. It will print here 1 square as here 1, and then it will make here 1 plus 2 equal to 3 here. So now it will check over once again, is I is equal to 3. Is this less than 5, true or false? If the condition is true, it will continue. It will make here I square, that is 3 square, which is here 9. And then it will try to add here 3 plus here 1. Right. So, sorry, 3 plus here 2. I plus 2. So now this will become here 5. Now, your condition here is I is less than 5. So 5 cannot be less than 5. So the condition will terminate and you get here only 2 outcomes, 1 and 9. Right. So that is the usual way in which the while loop works. And you can see here that in this case, the loop doesn't know at what stage the condition is going to be terminated, or you don't know that how long this condition is going to be satisfied. So when we don't know this type of conditions, we can use this thing. And if you try to come to the simulation or optimization problem, for example, we always say that we want to solve an equation and we try to increase the value up to a certain extent unless and until the difference in the outcome of 2 consecutive outputs is smaller than say 0.1. So means I will say, okay, you take a value, you try to compute it, and then you try to compute it, and then you try to see something as long as you are trying to this condition is not satisfied, right? So for example, means I can say take x equal to 1, try to compute your f of x, try to say that, then choose another value x equal to 2, and then try to choose f of x, and then try to see the difference between the two. And if this difference is smaller than 0.1, then you can assume that yes, the convergence has reached, and then you would like to terminate the program. So that is how you can use this while command over here, right? And then similarly here the repeat command, that repeat command does not test any condition, but it will simply close the eyes and it will repeat, and it will keep on repeating the program unless and until you stop it. So, and for stopping it, you have to give here a command like as here break. For example, you can see here, I can say here, take I equal to 1, and then means you can see that I'm trying to take the same example of print command, so that you can, once you try to put all these examples side by side, you can compare that what are the different situations under which you can use these 3 commands, right? So now I will say here, suppose if I say here repeat, then it is here print I square. And then consider I equal to I plus 2, and then if I is greater than 10, then you break it. So that means you have to repeat the program as long as I is not greater than I is greater than 10, then you have to break the program. So it will start with I equal to here 1. It will come here print I square, that is 1 square 1. And then it will say here I equal to I plus 2, that is 1 plus 2, 3. And then yeah, it will try to check whether I is greater than 10 or not. So 3 is greater than 10, no. So it will try to continue, and it will try to take another value here, I equal to say here I plus 2, that was 1 plus 2, which is equal to here 3. So now this will print here 3 square, and then it will try to say 3 square is here means 3 is greater than 10 or not. The answer is no. So it will try to repeat the things as long as I is greater than here 10, and then you can see here up to at I equal to 9 also. This will say that I is 9 is greater than 10. Answer is no. So it will try to repeat, and as soon as it comes to I equal to 10, 10 is greater than 10, no, and it will break it. So this is the condition. Means you can say that okay. Means you want to repeat the program, and if you try to translate it to any shopping website, have you ever seen that if you go to a shopping site and you don't buy anything, you get an offer? Okay, we can make you 5% off, and then they will try to see that in the next 2 days they will send you another email. Okay, we have not seen you, or this coupon code is lying. You have not used it. And then okay, and then you don't come, then they will say, okay, we are now giving you say 5% more this discount and so on. So this type of shopping website can say, okay, I will increase the percentage of discount by 1% as long as the customer is not coming towards shop and it is buying it. And after some time, they will try to create a psychological pressure on the minds of the customer. So the customer will say, okay, this person is now behind them. Okay, let me buy it. Right. So okay, so that is really going to happen. Right. Now I come to the most important part of this R software. And this is about writing the program. And believe me, this is the point which made my life very difficult, because I was unable to understand what is called a function. In the usual programming language, whether this is BASIC, Fortran, C, etc., you always write a program. And I was badly confused at how to write the program in the R software. And whenever I used to see anything, then they will always write, okay, just write a function. And I couldn't understand what is really a function, and that made my life difficult. But one day I determined that no, today I have to understand. And yeah, and then what really happened, that there is a say in Hindi that Khoda Pahad Nikla Chuha, means if you dig a mountain, you will get only a mouse. Right, so this is something like this. So I thought that, okay, I should not make the lives of other people difficult. So now first, before moving forward, let me try to give you here a very simple example. I'm sure that each one of you has done this type of exercise in your class 8th, 9th, 10th, y equal to fx. How do you call it? You simply call it y is a function of x. And when you say y is a function of x, then what happens? You are trying to say here that y is your here output variable, and x here is your input variable. And what is here f? F here is a function. Function is some mathematical form, and it is like here a box that you give here input here x, and you get here the output here y, and here inside something happens. It is just like if you have seen this popcorn machine, means you put some corn in the machine and it will become a means a fluffy popcorn. So in that case, the job of the function f is to convert those hard dried corns into popcorns, right? So in the mathematical way, if you try to see here, you simply write here y is equal to, suppose, x square. What does this means? You will try to give an input as x, and you will expect the output to be as the square of the value, right? So now this is as simple as that. Now I will come to here R, and you simply have to follow what you have just said. You are writing here y is equal to function of input variable, and then after this you have to write down here a curly bracket, and then you have to write what is the structure of here function, whether this is x square or here x cube, and whatever you want. So that is as simple as that. And when you are trying to write down here the input variables here, the input variables can be 1, the input variables can be more than 1, 2, 3. So if there are more than one input, then you can write here by the command here c x y z, etc., etc., etc. Right. So that is as simple as that. That's the most simple concept. As simple as that. So, and then yeah, one thing here more. This R means why this R became so popular. R became so popular because of one of the strongest feature is this writing about the function, because R has a capability that it can use the outcome of another function as an input variable. So that is possible. Suppose you are working in some bigger company where you want to do a big programming, so you can divide your entire job into different commands, and then you will give it to 100 employees to write the command for those smaller functions. And after that, you will try to combine them together. So what will happen? The person number 1 is writing this program, and it is trying to give the outcome number 1. Person number 2 has written a program, and he's giving us the outcome number 2. Now this outcome number 1 and outcome number 2, they are coming to you, and you are using them as input variable, and then based on that you are trying to get the output variable. So that was the biggest advantage of this R software. So now in this one, I will try to show you here how you can use them. Right. So as I said, the structure of writing a function. Okay. The most important thing, function is just like the program. Whatever you use as program in any other programming language, this is used here as this is called here as a function. That's all. So whenever someone asks you, okay, go to the R console, you now know you simply have to click on the R icon, and then you have to come to the starting point, beginning point. Similarly, when somebody asks you, okay, please write a function, that means you simply have to write a small program in the R software. Now you can see here when you are trying to write down the program. Program is what? That is a bunch of commands which are written in a systematic way, in a way you want to execute it. Right. So in order to write those commands, now you need all the background what we have done since yesterday. Suppose your input is the matrix or your output is matrix, so you should know that how to give the input in the format of matrix. Right. Suppose you want to do a square function or a square root function, then you must know that how to find out the square, how to find out the square root, etc., etc. So whatever we have done up to now, that is why this was creating a foundation of the course. Right. Okay. So now let me try to take here some examples, and possibly they will make you more confidence. Right. So they will give you, I'm sure that it is going to give you good amount of confidence. So suppose I simply want to compute here this function fx equal to x square. So let me try to give this function a name as say here ABC. And then I have to write down here the function functi all in lowercase alphabets. And then within the parenthesis, you have to write here x. And then within this curly brackets, you have to write whatever you want to do. What you want to do, you simply want to square the input variable. So now the question is here how to write down the square of the value which R can understand. And now you can understand why we have learned all these basic commands since yesterday. So now you know that if the input here is x, you can write down the x square as a x hat 2 or x double star 2, whatever you want. Now, once you try to write down this thing, then you have to simply say enter, and this will be stored as a function. Now I will try to show you this on the R console actually, otherwise this will not be clear. So let me try to come here. Right, suppose if I try to write down here ABC is equal to function, and suppose my input here is x, and then now I try to okay, let me try to show you something, and then I have to write down here like this, and then I have to write down here x square, and I will say enter. See, this is not working. Why? Because I made here a mistake that here at this place I have made the curly bracket, but now you can see that is the disadvantage of this, of working directly on the R console. Now I will have to type each and everything, but if you are working in the RStudio, then you can simply go to this line and simply delete the curly bracket, and you try to remove it and then change it by here simple parentheses. So you can see here that this is here now like this. I have corrected it, so this is my here ABC function. So you can see here this will look like this. Now suppose I want to execute this function. So in order to execute, the style here is, the approach here is that you try to write down the function, and within the parentheses you have to give the value of the input variable. Suppose if I gave here 3, so now this will become here 9. Right, suppose if I try to give here 3, 4. Now you see this is not working because there was only one input variable that was needed, and now you have given 2 input variables, so the R is not understanding it.
Sir, excuse me. Sir,
yeah.
Sir, the PPT is visible, screen is not visible.
Oh, sorry. When I teach, actually this mind is in the 7th sky, so I simply forget. Yeah. Extremely sorry. I will just repeat everything. Yeah, that is why you always need some good student in the class so that they can tell you what mistake you are going to make.
Yes.
No, thank you. Yeah, anyway, I will just quit again.
There are 2 raised hands also, so I am allowing them to.
Yeah. Actually, I have no issue even if they stop me in between. The only thing is this. Means if someone is unmuting the mic and something is happening at home or office, then it disturbs my concentration. That's all.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Sir, because the screen was not visible, so if you can repeat the process.
Yes. I'm doing, sir. Sir, I will always follow your orders. Don't worry.
No, sir. It's a request.
Right. So now you see. So I will try to do the same mistake what I did earlier.
Anuradha Laheja is also having hand raised.
Sure. You can ask. I think I can first clarify all the doubts, and then I will come here.
She has lowered her hand. Sir, you may please continue.
Okay. So now suppose I want to write here the function y equal to say x square. So now I try to give it here a name ABC. Then I will try to write down here function, and I try to write down here the input variable here x, and then I will try to write down here the outcome which I want to have, say x square. And now I have to simply here enter. Now then you see what happens. Yes, I made a mistake here. That is that here I had to give here a simple parenthesis, but by mistake I have given here a curly bracket, and so this is saying that this will not work. So now you see this is the advantage of working in the RStudio, that you can immediately go and just correct it. But now here I have two options. Either I try to type it again, or I try to use my scrolling key and then come back to the last line and I try to correct it. So you can see here I have corrected it. So now there will be no mistake. Remember one thing in R, if your command is correct as soon as you enter, it will mean nothing will happen. That means everything is fine. Otherwise, it will give you some error or plus sign that the function has to continue. So now you have written here a function fx equal to x square, and which you have denoted by the name ABC. So now if you want to see what is this ABC, you can see here like this, right? That this is a function. And in case if you try to see here this mode of ABC, that will also tell you that this is a function. This is not a scalar, this is not a vector, this is not anything else, right? Now the next question is, how would you like to execute this program? For the rule is very simple. Try to write down the name of the function ABC, and then within the parentheses try to give the input variable. So here, since I have here only one input variable, so suppose I give it here say 4, and it will give me the value of 4 square, right? And then in case if I want to execute this program for say x equal to 90, I simply have to give here the input variable has here x equal to 90. That's all. That is as simple as that, right? Now at the same time I would try to show you here one thing more, that suppose I want to write down a function here, say x square plus y square, where I have got two input variables. So I will just try to do it on the same screen without cleaning it, so that you can see the difference between the two. So suppose now I try to give here a function, say here z square, say ZSQ is equal to function. And now I am giving here two input variables, say x and y. So x and y, and then means if you wish, after that you can actually enter and you will get here a plus sign. So you get here like as here curly sign, and if you want to continue on the same lines, you can type it here also. Otherwise you can break the line also, and you say here enter. So that will make the things more actually clear in reading it. So I can write down here, say this is going to be here x square plus here y square. And there one thing means in R, when you are trying to write down the mathematical expressions, the space will not count. So either I try to write down here like this, or simply like this, or like this. This will not make any difference here. Even if I want to write it like this will not make any difference. Now you can see here, once I enter here, it's still showing me a plus sign. But as soon as I make here the curly sign, that means the program is complete and it will come out. That you can see. Right, now if you try to see, suppose I want to execute this program, so I have to write down the name of the function ZSQ, and then I have to now give the input variables exactly in the same order in which I have given my values. Or sorry, I will say the opposite way. I have to give the values inside this parenthesis exactly in the same order in which I have given the input variable. So first value which I am going to give here, suppose 2, and second value here is 3. That means if you try to compare this 2 and 3 with these two values over here, right? So this is here x comma y. So x comma y means the first value here is x, second value here is y. So similarly, here the first value 2 correspond to x equal to 2 and the second value 3 correspond to y. Right. So that is the way we try to execute it. So you can see here that is 2 square plus 3 square, that weight, which is here 13. But on the other hand, means if you try to well, that's a symmetric function, so it will not make any difference. But if you try to interchange it, then the values will be taken only in that order. So that is what you have to be clear when you are trying to perform. Right. So now at this moment, but I will ask Miss all of you, if you have any doubt in this function, please ask. Another, you can unmute everyone so that they can ask. Then I will take 2-3 more examples so that you are confident.
Sure, sir. I'll just unmute.
Actually, I would prefer that you simply unmute everyone.
Yes, I have done, sir.
Yes, so that people can also can take their own responsibility.
Everyone can unmute, sir.
Yeah.
Upadhyay sir, you can unmute yourself. All can unmute now.
So are there any questions? Because I cannot see anyone. I can see only.
Hello, sir. Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
please continue. Please continue, sir.
Salaf sir, good morning.
Good morning.
I had written the same function ZSQ equal to function xy, and within the curly bracket I have written x hat 2 plus y hat 2 curly bracket.
It is not curly bracket. It is simple bracket.
No. Miss after xy.
After xy, after x comma, I have written xy in simple bracket, then curly bracket, x hat 2 plus y hat 2,
yeah.
Curly bracket close. Now I write ZSQ equal to 2 comma 3.
No. There is no equality sign. Just the name and inside the parentheses.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good. You see, it is always a better option to make a mistake because then you can clarify it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. This is Neelam Upadhyay. Good morning, ma'am. I just have a question about this plus sign that has been used in the second line after you have defined ZSQ before the curly parenthesis. Yes. So this is just like next line to continue the sentence.
Yes, this is indicating the continuation. Means continuation
Answer,
means
one more question.
This function is not complete or the commands are not complete. Please continue unless and until this program is complete. So as soon as I see, means if I try to write down here this function here, means I can write down here, let's say directly here, say x square plus here y square. Right, but then definitely, well, that's a small function, so I can write in one line. But in practice, when we are trying to write down these programs, there are 100 lines, 200 lines, 1,000 lines. So this plus is indicating that the program is continuing, and means you have to continue, not complete.
So one more question. In the third line, there is a space between the plus and x square. Yeah. So if I don't keep that space and I just write it together, still the first plus will be like treated as a continuation.
Yes, exactly. That is what I said, that in that when you are trying to write down any mathematical expression, then this blank sign has no value. But when you are trying to write down any statement within the double quotes, then this blank space makes a difference. So that is
thank you so much.
What I was trying to show here. For example, now you can see here, and if you try to repeat the same function, that is quite to solve.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes. Anybody else?
Upanand Pani sir. Upanand Pani sir.
Yeah, Salaf sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, actually, I would like to know when we are writing the function for input, the type of bracket we are using. Let's say that it is a plain bracket, and the curly bracket we are using for x square plus y square. Is there any difference, or we can use also for the input curly bracket, or is there any?
No. That's a rule.
Okay.
That's a rule. For example, in this workshop, if you want to speak first, you have to unmute.
Okay.
So,
yes.
Unless and until you press the button unmute, this Microsoft team will not transmit your voice. So that is the programming structure. This is how the programming our structure has been evolved.
That is the syntax, sir. You have to keep it in mind.
Yes.
Yeah, well, actually, those who are from non-computational background, so they usually commit mistakes.
No,
Yes.
I agree. I completely agree. So that is why I'm trying to explain these things, because even I don't know the programming. I have learned it. Yeah, so I know that means what type of mistakes are there. This curly bracket mistakes. This sometimes the life becomes more difficult when you have to write 10 and you write 1 O.
Yeah.
Or say 1 capital O. That is more troublesome.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome. Shall I continue?
Sir, there are no more questions,
good.
I think.
So that was a good input, that at least now if people are asking this type of question, that means yesterday they had understood many things.
Yes, and they are working also.
That depends on the instructor or the organizer. Right, so okay, so you can see here now I will try to take here a couple of more examples to show you. So can you see my screen now? This PowerPoint?
Yes, PPT is visible, sir.
Okay, sure. So now you can see here that is the same thing. It means I have done here. I have written here these three lines here, that the function x square plus y square. So that I just shown you here. So you can, and actually you can continue as many as variables you want without any problem actually. Right. Okay. So now let me try to take here one more example here. Say this is something like means I want to evaluate a function sine square x plus cos square x plus x. Although we know that sine square x plus cos square is equal to 1, so that is simply 1 plus x. But as the participant just said that many people are not from the mathematical background, so they may not be knowing it. So if you try to see here, means I can just copy and paste this command over here. That will be faster. So you can see here like this. Now this here, this ABC function is here like this. Right. Now if you try to say give here ABC 4, so this will become here 5. Sine square plus x plus cos square x, that is 1 plus here x. Yeah. Right. Oh, sorry, I had not changed the screen. I will just change the screen. Yes, now you can see the screen. Wait, I must do it again. So I just.
Yes, sir. Our studio screen is visible.
Yeah. Now this function, and if you want to say here, execute it. Say x equal to 7, ABC 7, this is equal to here 8. So that's a very small thing, and I hope this will not make any difficulty for you. But I will request you one thing, that today at least you try to take up some very simple examples, so that will make you more confident actually. And programming is such a thing. Programming is like a driving. Means I always said that in order to become a good driver, you don't need any qualification, but you need only the practice. So programming is like a practice. If you practice more, you can do a good programming. You just need to know the basic fundamentals once. Right. Okay. Now I take a more interesting example. Suppose I want to compute these two quantities, this and this. So suppose I have here some numerical values which are indicated by x1, x2, xn, y1, y2, yn on y, and suppose I have stored these values x1, x2, xn in a data vector here x, and y1, y2, yn in this data vector here y. It's as simple as that. So now you can first you have to understand what is really happening in this function. So now if I ask you, without doing anything, means can you tell me how you can write down here summation xi square? I mean, this is simply here x1 is square plus x2 is square plus here xn is square. There are different ways in which you can do it. Well, I will take a very longer way, but now people know, I think, about these things. So you can see here, this is nothing but here. Okay, first let me, if you try to see what are you going to do, you are trying to square all the values, and all these values x1, x2, xn, they are stored here in the data vector x. So if I simply write down here x hat 2, so that is going to square the values. X1 is square, x2 is square, like here like this one, x1 is square, x2 is square, xn is square, and then you want to sum them. So for summing, you have done the command sum sum. So if you simply write down here sum x square, you can compute this summation xi square. Right. Similarly, you can compute here summation yi square. And if you want to compute summation xi upon yi whole square, you know that if I try to write down here the data vector here x upon y, so this data vector is going to make the data vector like x1 upon y1, x2 upon y2 up to here xn upon yn. Right, and you want to square them, so you can make it here, say here whole 2, and then you can sum them. So the fact is this, means if you are a good programmer, you can write this function in just one line. But still, I will take a very long way to explain you that how I'm going to do it here. Right, basically it is for those who don't have the basic programming skills, so they can understand it very easily from this example. So let me try to call this function here as a g and this function here as a h. Right, and then I try to do here, you see, first I can show you here that this function is so small here, but then I have divided it into 3 slides so that I can give you more details. So remember one thing, whenever you are trying to write down the program, you have to first clear the space, because it might be possible that you are trying to choose some variable which you already have defined and they will be coming from the past. So first of all, we try to use here the command here rm list, means you remove all the variables, right? And now definitely suppose I try to take here some numerical values here on x and y. So I take here x equal to 10, 20, 30 and y equal to here 1, 2, 3. Right, and now I start writing the program. So this here example 1, which is equal to here function xy. There are only two input variables. Now you can see here I am writing here this hash sign. Hash means, you can recall, we had discussed it. It is about the comment. So I'm simply writing the comment that, okay, this is the place where I'm starting the writing of the function body. Right. And now I'm trying to make it as automated as possible. Right. So now I am writing here one more here hash, just to explain that first give all other input variables. So the advantage will be if you write these hash comments, if you try to send this program to anybody else, he or she can understand it very easily. Right. And then I want to know, because you can see here this is summation I goes from 1 to n. Right. So I need to know the value of here n. So for example, n is the number of observations in the data vector. So I'm writing here this n is equal to computation of number of observation, n is equal to length of x. So I am unnecessarily trying to increase the length of the program, but my objective is not to tell you the program, but to explain you how the things are happening. So now when you now I try to do here one thing, instead of finding out the summation xi square by the function sum, I'm trying to use here a loop so that I can demonstrate the use of the loop also. So whenever you are trying to use here the loop, first you have to make all the values to be 0, all the initial values to be 0. Initial values means what will be my starting point at which I am going to start my loop, right? So the loop has to start from 0. So that is why I'm trying to indicate here 3 variables x1, y1, z1, all to be equal to 0. And then now I have to decide which of the loop I want to use, while loop, for loop, etc., etc. So I try to, because I know that I have to repeat it only for n times, so I can use here the for loop. So you can see here with this hash sign, I am writing here the start of the loop, and then I am writing here the command for I in 1 to n, and then now within this curly brackets, I have to write down all the things, whatever I want to compute inside the loop. Right, so now you can see that here there are different commands, so every command will be coming on a separate line. So when you try to type it directly on the R console, there will always be a plus sign here, and so on. But anyway, I'm not bothered about those things now. So now what do you want here? That you want to make this here x1 to be here x1 square. So means xi square, whatever is the value in the data vector here, x, you can see here, x here is like this, y here is like this. These are some numerical values, and x1, y1, x1, y1, z1, they are only the initial values. So now when I'm trying to write down here this bracket, square bracket, this is going to give you the address of the value in the data vector that we saw yesterday, right? When somebody has asked me that when I want to sum x plus y, then, and if I want to add two different values in the data vectors, then how I can do it, right? So I am trying to write down here x and here I. So this will give you I is coming from here, from the loop 1 to n. So this will be the position. So the value, the first value in the data vector x, the second value in the data vector x, and the third value in the data vector x, and so on. So I simply want to square it. And the same thing I try to do with the y value also. And for the z, actually I can see here that here this thing here, this is summation of xi upon yi whole square. So my variable is here xi upon yi. So I try to write down here xi upon yi, and then here whole square. And then I say now I'm done for this loop, so I close my here loop. So you can see here these two things, they are inside the loop here, right? Now I want to obtain the sum of all these values, because these values are going to be stored in, say, x1i, x2i, and so on. So I want to make their sum. So I simply try to write down here that sum of x1, sum of y1, sum of z1, and I try to give them different names, sum underscore square underscore x. Well, as I said, that I am unnecessarily trying to extend this program, but I want to give you more detailed things. Right, so now I have obtained here, so this is going to give me the value of here summation xi square, this is going to give me the value of summation y square, and the third value is going to give me the value of summation xi upon yi whole square. Now you can see here, this is what was your function here, g was summation xi square upon y square, and h was summation xi upon yi whole square. So I can simply write down here g is equal to, we have sum of square root to x, sum of square root to y, and h is simply here sum of square root equal to z. Now I want to get this outcome in a particular format. So I can use here the command here cat. Then I can say here the value of, or I should write here the values actually. The values of g and h are g and h like this, respectively, if you want to write. Right, but if you try to see, the entire program can be written in this way, or even you can now write it in just 2 lines actually. But I have unnecessarily shown you in a longer way. So let me try to first means if you wish, you can also do the same thing. I will try to simply just copy and paste this command in my R console. And if you want to wish, you can also do it in the R Studio. Sorry, I have not changed the screen. See here, I simply have copied the same statement, and if you try to see here example.
Tripathi sir and Anuradha ma'am, your hands are raised. I have allowed you to unmute.
So you can see here, this is your example. And now, in case if you want to execute it, you simply write down the program example 1. Try to give here, say here, yeah, you want to give here first the values of x and y. So you need to give here the values of here x and y. I can write down. Then I can write down here the value of here y. Similarly here c, say 10, 19, 18, 17. It's anything you can write. And then if you write down here example 1, comma x, comma y, then you can see here the outcome will be here like this. The values of g and h are like this. Right. So you can see here now you have obtained even the outcome in your way. And similarly, if I try to make here one mistake here, suppose I try to remove the last value in the y vector, then I try to execute it here like this. So you can see here this is giving us the values of g and h are NA and NA respectively. Now I'm sure that you understand the values of NA. NA means these values are missing, means that means you have made some mistake here, and the mistake is very simple here. You are not trying to because you are trying to say n is the number of observation in x and y both, but you have taken here only means in one data vector the number of values are 4, and in another data vector y there are only 3 values, so it is not matching, so it is giving you an error. But if you try to see, suppose this example is a part of a very huge program containing say 5,000 lines, and this is only an intermediate program. So can you really understand why this NA is coming? No. So that is why one option is that instead of using here n, you can use n1, n2. N is defining the length of data vector x, and say n2 is defining the length of the data vector y, and then you try to write down the program accordingly. So that will work, right? So that is what I wanted to show you. So now let me come back to my slides. Right, so you can see here, once you try to see this program on the example 1, Chris will show you all these plus signs, because plus signs mean it is continuing. Right, anyway, so right, so that is what you can see here, that I have taken here different values of here x and y, and then I have computed these values. So these are not difficult things, okay? Now I try to come to a more interesting example. I think possibly that will be the second last example. Means I want to compute this function, means fxy. Yeah, this looks very horrible to many people, but if you open your eyes and try to see it clearly, this is a very simple function. You can see here this x plus log of y upon y. This is appearing at the same place. Right, so I can rewrite this function as here as say I can write down x plus log y upon y as say gxy, and I can simply write down here gxy, gxy, gxy here. Now, if you try to think that how are you going to compute this function? Don't you think that if somehow I can compute this value gxy separately, and then this value gxy can be used as an input in the function fxy. So if you try to see, I have taken this simple example intentionally to illustrate that how within a function you can use another function. That is my basic objective in this example. So let us try to do it here. So let us try to break this this function into two parts, gxy and fxy. And but you can see here that the input variable for both the function f and g, they are the same. Means that gxy also depends upon here x and y, and fxy also depends here on x and y, right? So the input are going to be the same. So now what we will try to do, we will try to write down two different functions, one for g and one for f, and try to see how it happens. So yeah, we try to define the input variables. Now that is standard. Now you can see here, first I try to consider here this function gxy, and you see I am writing here a separate function g, so function xy, and then this is simply here x plus log y divided by y. Well, I have given it more details here by writing hash so that you can understand what I'm doing here. So this is written here like this. And then I'm trying to write down this function here. So you can see here, I am writing here f function of x for y. And now I have done nothing here. Whatever I have written here g, whatever I have written here g, I am writing here say gxy, because x and y, they are the input variables in order to compute xy. So it is here gxy whole square divided by 5 plus gxy whole cube into exponential of gxy raised to the power of 2 by 3. So what is really happening, what you have to see here, that there are two programs, program number here 1 and program number here 2, right? And note down one thing, the input variables here are the same, xy in fxy and xy in the gxy. But in second function fxy, I am calling another function to compute the values. So what will happen? Let me try to clear the screen. So what is really going to happen when I try to execute this function here fxy? It will come here and it will see, okay, there is one more function gxy which is used. So this program will go out of this fxy and it will try to go to here gxy function. Well, gxy function has to be there there at the same place. So it will go there. It will compute the value of gxy for a given value of xy, and then it will come back here, and then it will use it here. And then it will give you the value of fxy. So for example, I can show you here. So yeah, so that is what I have written here. Okay, this is the same thing on the screenshot. Right. So more than that, now if you try to see, means I will show you on the R console also, but first you try to understand what is happening. Means I will simply copy and paste this gxy and fxy. Now I am giving here x equal to 10, y equal to 20, and I'm simply trying to execute fxy. Just all. I'm not computing gxy, remember. I am simply computing fxy, but when I'm trying to compute fxy, then fxy goes out of the structure of the program. It goes to gxy and it carries the values of x and y which I have given in fxy. It computes the value of gxy. It brings the value of gxy back, and then it computes my fxy, right? So now let me try to show you here so that you can understand it very clearly here. So I will simply try to copy and paste this command over here, both actually, or I can, yeah. And for you, it is easier if you try to do it in the RStudio. Right. Now, how to clear the window? Control L. Now I am simply just writing here two functions here, f and g. So you can see here, I can see here, f here, sorry, g here is like this, and f here is like this. Right. Now I have not done anything here. Now I try to give here the value of, say, x equal to 100 and y is equal to 200. And I try to run here the program fxy. You can see here, note down that I have not executed the program G, but I have simply executed the program fxy. You can see here, this is giving me the value. Or even I can write down here directly if I try to change the value of x as 12, y as 13, you can see here, this is giving me this value. So what's really happening? That when I am trying to execute here this fxy, then it encounters here gxy. So it chooses the same value of x and y, and it comes to the function here g, and then it tries to compute the value of g, and then it brings back here and then try to compute the value of
Tripathi sir is having some doubt. Sir, you are allowed to unmute because you had raised your hand earlier
Sure,
also. JN Tripathi sir?
No, I think that hand is up right from the beginning actually.
That I have seen, but he is messaging me on WhatsApp, sir.
I see. So,
but he's saying he's not able to unmute, though from my side I have.
So actually, you can just ask him the what he wants
Sir,
to know.
you are a presenter now, you can unmute yourself. JN Tripathi sir?
I had first doubt that how I can nest the function. So you have explained this one.
Okay.
That's good. My question is, should I put both the functions in the same working directory?
Yes. Yes.
It must be in the same function,
yes.
In the same directory, same working directory.
MUST must, that you exactly said.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right. Because it is something like this. Means if you want to have a cup of tea at your home, and if there is no tea leaves, how can you have the tea? You may have water, you may have sugar, you may have milk.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All
thank
sugar, you. Tea leaves, water, etc. should be at the same place.
Thank you, sir.
Right, any other doubt? Okay. Right, so now let me try to take here the last example. And yes, one thing means I can accept very honestly that yes, this example means I had earlier used in my this NPTEL videos also, because actually I took a very long time to conceive that what type of function should I give to my audience in half an hour time, 30 minutes, 40 minutes time, so that they can get a complete representation of the role of functions in the R software. So that is how means I can always change this example, but it doesn't make any difference because these examples are actually very much representative that what different types of activities we can do in the R. Right, so don't think that I'm trying to repeat the same example. Well, I can do it very easily, just change some other function and you can do it. But that is not my objective, and your objective is also to understand the same thing. Right. Okay. Now I try to give you here one more example. Suppose you have here such a function, which is exponential of x plus log of 1 plus x cube divided by x square. If x is greater than 0, it takes value 10. If x equal to 0, it takes value 2 plus x cube upon 2 plus x cube upon x if x is less than 0. Right. And I want to create here a plot. I want to create here a curve. Right. You know that in software, you try to use very expensive software to source such a curve, and particularly when you are trying to do in mathematics simulation, etc., etc. Now you can do it very easily in this thing. So please try to understand it here, that this is a function here which is trying to take here 3 possible values. One is here 0. It is some values are here in a different way. At 0, it is different value, and after 10, it is some other different value. Right. So now how to get it done? So you can see here, as usual, I will try to remove all the data. Now I simply try to use your if-else loop. That's all. Why? Because you see, I want to plot it. So first I want to generate the values of x and then the values of means fx, and then I would try to plot it. Because you see, whenever you are trying to plot it here, usually we have here x, we have here fx. So we need to have here the paired values like xi, f of xi, only then we can plot them together. Right, so I try to use this function to compute all these values accordingly, because it is saying means I will give the values of here x, and it will say that okay, if x is greater than 0, then you have to compute this function. X is equal to 0, logical equality, then you have to compute x equal to 10, which is here, you can see here, and means otherwise means whatever is left, that is x is less than 0, then you have to compute 2 plus x cube upon x. Right. So now can you see that it is not difficult to write this function, and simply try to, now you have to generate the data set. So what I try to do here, that I try to generate the values which are between which are negative, 0 as well as positive. So I try to take here a sequence. Actually, this sequence will give me the value starting from -1 at an interval of 0.2, and then it will it will end here at 5. So now I try to write down here this here as here a function to just to generate these values. Otherwise,
excuse me, sir.
Directly also.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. Earlier, I was not able to unmute, not able to chat. Otherwise, I would have stopped there. Like in the previous example, you gave the example that we can have 2 functions, one nested within another, right? So my question is, can we have 2 different functions in 2 different files?
Yes. I have taken a very simple example in which I have taken 2. Right, but miss, any function can be nested in any one. There can be more than 2 functions. There can be more than 3 functions.
I'm not asking about the level of nesting. My question is, I've got suppose 2 R files. In one file, I've got function f, g, and in another function file, I've got a function h, where I want to use functions f and g, which have been defined or created in separate R file. So how could I use those functions? Like, need I include something in my program for that?
Yes.
Specify that. How do I do that?
Means every function is actually an R file.
Yeah.
Means every function is actually an R file.
Okay.
Right. So the only condition is that all these functions, all these R files should be located in the same directory.
Okay, in that case, I need not mention, like in C, whenever I want to use some external program, we used to use hash include and the file name from where the function has to come. Similarly, here we need not mention that.
No, hash I have written only for your information.
No, that is a comment. Comment, I know. I'm
sir,
saying
let me interrupt, sir. Ma'am is saying she has made a function
Yes.
Suppose any function f.
Yes.
In another file. She has
Yes.
named that file with some name.
Yes.
Now she had made another file. Say the
Yes.
first file was Anuradha, the second file is Shalabh.
Yes.
She wants to import H that she has made in Anuradha
Yes.
to Shalabh. Right,
Yes.
ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, right.
Right. So exactly, if you try to see here, this is what I have done in this function. Means I have written here the function here G. So this is like here, say this one file which is like as Anuradha, and now I have written here another file here is called as Shalabh, and inside this Shalabh I'm trying to call this file as Anuradha.
Still you're not getting, sir. I'm saying like these two are functions defined in a...
Wait. I said function is same as our file. Means okay. Our program, if I try to write down this function in the R console, in the R studio, I can save it as R means Anuradha.R, Shalabh.R, and then you can call this .R file inside this one.
Okay, fine. And
So
one more request, sir. When you are going through the programs, be a bit slow so that side by side we can also try it out.
Yes, you see, I have two options. I have 2 hours of time. So yeah, so that is what I requested yesterday only, that well, I will try to, because if you try to means I will be more comfortable if you give me 5 minutes break after every example. So that is your choice. I have no issue. I will be more comfortable. But then that is what exactly I said in the beginning, that the better option is I will try to show you here. And after that, you have all the recordings, you have everything. You have to spend some time. Otherwise, more time will be actually used. Means if you give me time, I have no issues.
Okay, fine. We'll just try to hurry up. Our speed has to be increased better.
Right. So actually, yeah. So it's not question of hurry, but is the striking a balance in this online mode actually.
Yeah.
Sir,
because if there are 100 participants or 200 participants, then it will become, yeah, that's a drawback. I do accept it.
We are also heading towards a break. You need tea, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So if you try to see here, I have written this thing here. Right, and now I will try to generate the values of here yi based on this f of xi, and then I will simply use here the command here plot. Plot command I will be discussing in the next lecture, and then I try to create this here plot. So if you try to see here, the entire program is very simple. I try to create here the values of f. I try to create here the value of here h. Here, that's all. Means I'm trying to simply plot here, and once you try to execute it, this will be here like this. Means right. These are the different values, and you will get here this type of graph. So better is to, let me try to show you here on the R console itself, so that will become a better option. So well, I'm just going to now, okay, I will now do it in 2 steps so that you can see that how these 2 files can be embedded. So first, let me try to show you here that I'm simply copying here the file number 1. And file number 1 is simply your R file actually. This function is nothing but your R file, right? If you try to save it as a script, that will become f.r. So there is practically no difference between a program file and a function in R. Right, so now let me try to, so what I will do first, I will try to copy F. I will paste it in the R console. Then I will try to copy and paste the second function. Okay. I have copied here F, so you can see here, this is your here F. So this is just like your here f.r. And now I will simply copy here. I'm not shading the side, but I'm simply copying the function here h. And then I'm trying to copy it here h. You can see here this function here h. Right. And now what I try to do here, that I have to now execute it. So for that, what will I try to do here? Means if you want to see what will be the value of here, the values of the function f for different values of x, that you can do very easily. If you simply try to say here f of 4, this will come out to be some value 1.66. If you try to say here f of value of here, say here 89, this will be here like this here. But now my basic objective is this: I want to execute the h, and you can see here this function here h, that is embedding the value of f, right? So what it will do, that it will try to choose the value of x starting from -1 at an interval of 0.2. It will create a sequence, and then it will try to compute the value of f of x for those values of x, and then it will store x and y, and it will simply plot it here. So you can see here there are no input variables in the function here h, because I already have given x inside the program. So I also wanted to show you that when you are trying to write down the program, it is possible that there is no input variable, but rather you have given all the input variable inside the program itself. So now if you try to see here, if I try to write down here, execute here h, you can see here this curve is generated. Right. So you can see here in this curve here, this is here 0. So before 0, you have a different curve, and then after 0, there is a different curve.
Sir,
right?
Sir.
Yes.
Before we could have defined this h function, we could have separately defined x and y, and then yes, that may have been given as the input to the h.
Yes, 100% correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, actually, Kushi, at this moment, I'm not concentrating on the programming part, because programming is something like which depends on the
practice
programmer actually. That one can write the same thing in one line, and another will do put in say 20 lines. So what you are saying, that is 100% correct. I can write down actually this thing only in 2 lines actually, but at this stage my objective was something else.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, so I'm now done with this lecture 1. Hello. And if you have any questions, you can ask.
Sir, could you please explain me SEQ function which you have used?
Sequence, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sequence is a command actually which is used to generate the value in a sequence. For example, I can say here sequence from say 2 to here, say here 10, like this. Right, and if you want to add it here.
What is the use of by which you have used here?
By, I'm coming. By 3. So means 2 and can here 2 plus 3 5, 5 plus 3 here 8.
By just the interval. At what interval you have to go from?
Interval, or I will say increment or decrement.
Step value.
Yeah.
Step value.
Step value. Yeah.
So what is the last argument which you have used in that code? 2 which you have mentioned there. So fourth argument.
Both argument from is the starting value. 2 is the.
Fourth argument in the same program, if you see. SEQ -1, 5, by.
Yes. Okay. Now you see, means the same thing I can write down here, say sequence 2, 10, 3. So at least means if you try to write in this way, then the first value is indicating for from, second value is indicating for to, and third value is indicating for by. That is the default role. So you will see here the same thing.
Sir, kindly show me the same code which you have shared in the part of the program, which is the edge function. So here by is equal to 0, 0.2. Okay, fine. Got it. Sorry. I thought it is a comma there. That's why I thought what is the fourth argument used for. Sorry.
Yeah.
Got it. Sir, type is equal to 1, 2, 3. Does it signify the type of plots
Yes,
we are going to?
yes. I will try to explain you
Okay.
in next lecture today itself.
Okay.
Because when you are trying to plot, there can be different types of plots: line plot, point plot, dot plot, etc., etc. So because here I wanted to join them by straight line. So this is here the point. The type here is L. L means line. So this I will be explaining you in the next lecture.
Okay, sir. We'll break for a tea right now. We'll join back by 11:40.
Yes. Okay. 15 minutes back. Good.
Thank you so much, everyone.